You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is February the 10th, 2020, with you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
So, Carl, since the last time we spoke, the Detroit Red Wings have won 2 games. So my question for you to open the show is it time to take them out of the Elimination Station?
I mean, and not just like, they didn't just win games, they won games that they shouldn't have won.
Yeah, they keep beating the Bruins for some reason. For some reason,
the Boston Bruins do not have the Red Wings number this year. Congratulations on beating the Bruins.
Thank you.
I did see tonight, before we were starting up, some of the, and I forget who it was, apologies to that person, I think it was Sean Tierney, posted his postseason projection totals. So totals for every team projecting the rest of the way and what it will take to get into the playoffs. In the Western Conference, it was 90 points. I think it's higher in the East. But if we use 90 points as the projection, the Red Wings only need another 58 points in 25 games. So,
and are they mathematically eliminated from the playoffs yet?
If that's the number, yes. They cannot get 58 points in 25 games.
There's a chance.
and that number is probably going to be higher than 90 points. So, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's impossible. We're going to leave them firmly in the Elimination Station.
All right. Well, I tried as hard as I tried to put the Habs in last week, so...
But it is good news that if they do want to continue to lose, we know the solution is not to play Jonathan Bernier in net. He was good enough in those games.
Yeah, he's been good. He's been good all season, actually. Good enough to be on, I think, the trade rental list this year.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of that this week. We're going to talk about the trade deadlines coming up real quick here. We've got some trades. There was a trade already happened last week. We've got some contracts being handed out. Someone has been doing some very, very inappropriate things, Nick, and we will get into that as well. We'll put a team in the Elimination Station. Maybe it'll be the Habs, just like Nick's always wanted. Maybe it won't. We'll find out tonight. Before any of that, let's remind folks about the Alberta Podcast Network, a great network that we are a part of. And one thing that makes it such a great network is all the shows are from Alberta. So if you're listening and you're from somewhere else, you can learn a lot of things about Alberta or some of what's happening here. If you're from Alberta, there are so many fantastic shows that are coming out from this network, and a lot of them covering just a ton of different topics. So what I want you to do, head over to albertapodcastnetwork.com and check out the giant list. There are now 9 different categories of shows that you can listen to. One of my favorite topics of late is science. I've been listening to a ton of science podcasts, Nick. And so if you would click on the education and self-improvement, you'd find some things along those lines. So just some things that you don't know and you could learn about. Lots of great shows in there. Head on over to albertapodcastnetwork.com to find out more. Big news in the whole world of sports lately, Nick. And I know that it is because you aren't even really that big of a baseball fan, and we were talking about it. The Houston Astros.
Oh, they got caught. You know what they say about cheating, Carl? Don't get caught.
Everything is fine until you get caught.
They got caught.
And so they got caught. We've seen many repeated times to little punishment. New England Patriots, they get caught cheating.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have some cheaters in the National Hockey League. And I think, if you were going to cheat, what are some ways that you think you would cheat in hockey?
This is a tough one. I was thinking about this in context of the Astros, like how do you cheat in hockey? You know, there's the classic having too big of a curve on your blade, having your jersey tucked in, you know, the classic hockey cheats.
Like bigger now, especially now, bigger goalie equipment.
Bigger
than you're
goalie
allowed.
pads. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, stuff that we haven't seen, at least there's stuff that you could do, like equipment tampering for your opponents.
So what would like putting itching powder in their gear or?
Absolutely. You know, I don't know. I don't know what else you could do. I'm not a professional cheater, so it's hard for me to speak hypothetically about it.
Right. Okay.
But
so, I would say that that's one. I think because in line, right, what the Astros did is they were videoing things. I think if you were to have a video, like we've got high def video all over the place right now. So you can have a video camera. You don't even have to have it up close. You could just hang it from the rafters and be watching down, seeing what they're drawing on the old whiteboard when they're drawing up their plays.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that.
Know
Maybe
exactly what they're doing. Maybe
tap into their audio frequency and listen into the coaching conversations with management up above.
Yeah. Or something we see in football a lot, just those videos and the screens that they have now on the legal screens they have on the bench, shockingly just go out, right? One bench it works, the road bench it doesn't.
Yeah. Oops.
Right? My bad. But one way that the Arizona Coyotes are getting in trouble, they are currently being investigated for at least 20 incidents of violating testing and training of draft eligible players. So they're getting in trouble. This is not allowed. You're not allowed to go in and have these guys come in. So they're bringing these players in for fitness testing, doing fitness testing, sending their scouts out doing some of these things. And you can't do that, Nick.
No, I just learned that, actually. I didn't know that this was a thing. I'm surprised they got through 20 players before they were figured out. Like, why are these players not saying something?
Yeah. And I mean, I get why the players are doing it, right? Like, I want to up my draft stock with a team. You're going to show up, but you also don't have to. Like, I'm not sure I'd want to, with the Coyotes, you know now they're going to get caught cheating. Right? Like, if they can catch the Houston Astros with their garbage can thumping, I'm fairly certain that they're going to catch the Coyotes doing this.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't understand what these players are like. Are their agents not familiar with these rules? Are the players not like, why did only one team ask to do additional fitness testing?
Right? Like, why is just the Coyotes? Like, are they that ahead of the game of everyone else?
Yeah. But I have to say, when I heard about this, I was disappointed. Like, of all the ways that we just went through that you could cheat in hockey, this is a pretty boring one. There's no thumping drums. There's no spy cams. There's no audio taps. They just wanted to bring some guys into the gym.
They just stress test a bunch of kids. And that's not super fun. Though the biggest problem is, Nick, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. The Arizona Coyotes, not exactly flushed with cash.
I have heard that.
Yeah. This could come, each violation, and there's at least 20, could come with a maximum of $250,000, which means the Coyotes could end up with punishments over $5 million. Money I'm fairly certain that organization does not have lying around.
That's going to have to come out of Phil Kessel's salary.
Yeah, now all of a sudden he's going to have a mystery injury and retire. It's super weird. You know what?
That is crazy. Are those fines coming from the league?
Yes, that would come from the league. So this is coming from Darren Dreger, and he said that the league and Gary Bettman are currently investigating it and will come out with their outcome when they do. There's no time frame for that. And that was as of Saturday. So as of Saturday, there was still no time frame, but those are the potential updates at a maximum of $250,000 per punishment.
Man, that's crazy. So, but here's the crazy thing to me. Do you think the Coyotes benefited off of this?
You'd have to, right?
I would hope so.
You've got to get some real good scouting in there.
I would hope that they got some pretty good insider knowledge off these tests, that it was worth the $5 million.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're being able to draft some great players, especially late round players, and develop them and have them as starters, all of a sudden you're not having to pay other people, right? So
yeah.
What makes this extra confusing, though, and you say, hopefully this works out for them. If they're going to cheat this year, the Arizona Coyotes do not have a first round draft pick. They also do not have a third round draft pick. So they currently only have 5 picks in this year's draft. So I'm not sure what their plan was with all of these players they're scouting. What picks are they going to be using on them? Or are these players that are even further out, like they're testing next year's draft? Either way.
Yeah.
Which that seems bad. That seems like a terrible idea when you're scouting 17-year-olds and like illegally physically testing them and putting them through training. Stuff's going to change in a year.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, when it comes to draft picks, this team is no stranger to making trades both at the draft and around the draft, packaging picks up to move up. Like John Chayka's pretty confident, I think, in the things that he does. Like if they need to get additional picks, I feel like he'll do it. But I think a lot of what's going to happen with them is going to depend on what Taylor Hall decides to do.
Right, absolutely. And that's obviously one of the picks that they have is from the Taylor Hall pick. The other one is actually with the Colorado Avalanche, in which former big fan of mine, Carl Soderberg, for obvious reasons, was traded for a third round pick.
Did you just say Carl Soderberg was a big fan of yours?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What? You're telling me that any player named Nick on the Red Wings, like Nick Cronwall, Nick Lidstrom, you've got to be a big fan of them.
I'm a big fan of them. I don't think they're big fans of mine.
Oh, did I say it the other way around? Yeah, Carl Soderberg loves me.
You're like big fan of mine.
Yeah. Isn't that the right way to say it?
No, you're a big fan of his.
Big fan of his. Me and Carl Soderberg, I mean, look, I was texting with him the other day.
Yeah.
And I was asking him, how things are going in the desert. Mm-hmm. And he says he misses it in Denver. He wishes he could be, firmly entrenched in a playoff position instead of fighting for his playoff life. But he understands, right? Nazem Kadri is a lot better than he is.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like all the players say, it's a business, right?
It is a business. And I mean, he's doing well in the desert. He's got 13 goals this year.
Yeah, that's not bad. Coyotes are struggling a little bit lately, but they're struggling right now, actually. But I don't know. They're a good team.
The old injury bug hit them.
Yeah.
As it does every season.
Yeah. Bad luck in that way.
Yeah. Well, let's see. We will see as this punishment comes out. We'll find out more about the Arizona Coyotes and what kind of punishments they are going to get. The Leafs are also a team struggling right now.
Yeah. And they shouldn't be. This is the exciting one.
Right. They shouldn't be struggling at all. Because they fired Mike Babcock. He's gone. And everyone said, that's the problem. Mike Babcock's got to go. And so they did. Brought in Sheldon Keefe. Things were going pretty well for this team for a while. And then, was it last week's episode? At the very end, when I dropped the bomb on you that Freddie Andersen was hurt? Or was that 2 weeks ago?
I can't remember. I think it was last week.
Yeah, that sounds like last week.
Yeah, it was last week.
So we found out Freddie Andersen not ready yet. And so a team that was, already struggling a little bit now lost Freddie Andersen and had to turn to everyone's least favorite backup, Michael Hutchinson.
And how'd that go for them?
I mean, they traded for a new backup goalie almost immediately. Like, he got 2 games in this week, and then they were like, you know what? Like, if they could have done it in the middle of that game, I'm pretty sure they would have. Like, if they could have just brought Jack Campbell in, be like, oh, our emergency goalie tonight is Jack Campbell. You're hurt, aren't you? You look hurt. Are you hurt, Michael? He's like, no, I'm fine. Michael, tell me again. You know what? You're clearly concussed. Let's get you off the ice. So Jack Campbell, Kyle Clifford, coming to the Leafs. Going the other way, Trevor Moore. And was there a pick with that one?
I've got the details right now. A 3rd-round pick in 2020, Columbus's, and a 2021 conditional 3rd-round pick.
Okay, so and that's it's not conditional. They will be getting that pick. It's simply based on if Kyle Clifford resigns because he's a free agent.
Yep.
Or if the Leafs make the playoffs and Jack Campbell plays a sufficient amount of games. So it's either going to be a 2nd or a 3rd. So Trevor Moore, who is not playing with this team at this point in time.
No.
So they essentially traded a non-roster player and 2 3rd-round picks for a backup goalie and someone who's going to play.
This is, like, my opinion, this is a great trade for the Leafs because they solved 2 perceived problems with their team. One of them being the goaltending, and the other one being someone who's a bit of a tough guy and who can push people around a little bit.
I mean, the way you said that sounded much more demeaning than I think you thought it was going to.
What, tough guy?
Someone who thinks he's a tough guy. Someone who's thought of as a real tough guy.
Well, he is.
Yeah.
I don't mean it in a demeaning way, but what I mean to say was that there's this perception out there, and maybe it's true. I don't really know how I feel about it, but the Leafs are a soft team, and when people take advantage of them, there's nobody on that team who can stand up and back their guys up in a physical way. And I think someone like Kyle Clifford brings that to the table.
Sure, that is literally. I mean, I know Leafs fans, especially now that he's not on the team, really like to make fun of the fact that Nazem Kadri would get suspended every playoffs. But he brought that. It wasn't something you had to worry about, right? Like, Naz was going to stand up for guys on this team, and he would cross a line almost annually. So we will see. Can Kyle Clifford rein that in? But the big piece that I think is super important is Jack Campbell, right? Getting him in there, huge.
100%. They've been struggling with backups for like 3 years now.
And he's been well. I mean, he was a former like high draft pick, didn't work out in Dallas, came to LA, was able to turn things around starting last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know not a lot of us are watching LA Kings hockey.
Nope.
With good reason. But he's done well there. And I mean, small sample size, but he got 3 points in 3 out of 4 possible points in his 2 starts with the Leafs. And the last game, it was not his fault that they lost that game. I know he took blame for it, but come on. The rest of the team's got to give him some credit.
Yeah, I mean, like he's someone that you can have, especially after these 2 games, you can have confidence in him when you start the game, right? There's not this question in the back of do we have to worry about our goalie? I think after these 2 games, that question's been answered. If Freddie's out, you can have confidence that your goalie behind you is going to make some saves. Because Hutchison was not making saves. He's letting in a lot of weak goals.
Not in the slightest, no. And Campbell's been good. He is also signed after this year, so that's a big piece for this team. He is signed for 2 more years after this at a pretty reasonable cap hit of 1.65. Yeah. So they'll be very glad to have him, and that alone is worth this trade. If Kyle Clifford was not included this would be fine.
Yeah. And it was around this time last year where Kyle Dubas pulled the trigger on the Jake Muzzin trade, wasn't it?
Ooh, I know where I was when it happened, but that's about it. I don't remember when.
I'm pretty sure I was sitting in this chair staring at this monitor. But I think it was around that time. Sorry, go ahead. Where were you?
I was in the Sport Check in downtown Calgary was shutting down, and I was there at their going out of business sale. So I was getting some sweatpants, some shorts. I almost bought No, I did. I also bought a Nathan McKinnon jersey because it was $5.
There you go. Now I know why that was so memorable for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, anytime you can get all those for like 75% off, it's a win.
So, second year in a row that Kyle Dubas kicks off trade deadline season.
With the trade with the LA Kings, does he have any other numbers?
Not that I know of.
I mean, show me a trade he's made with another team, and I'll believe you, because I don't think he does.
Didn't he make a trade with the Colorado Avalanche last summer?
Show me a trade he's made with another team, and I'll believe. Yes, he has. But maybe
I'm sure he got Joe Sakic's number from who's the LA Kings manager? Rob Blake?
Oh, yeah. Rob Blake and Joe Sakic have each other's numbers for sure, right?
Yeah.
All those Stanley Cup championship meetups that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dubas is just calling Blake all the time. And Blake's like, look, you got to give me a break here. Stop calling me. Here's another number that you can call.
I think one time he was probably called Rob Blake. And he's like, hey, is that Joe in the background? Is that... Hey, put Joe on the phone. And that's how the Kadri trade happened.
Can you ask him a question for me? Just real quick.
Yeah. Is Tyson Barrie available? I just want to know, okay? It's probably better coming from you. He trusts you more than he trusts me.
I love it.
So let's get into some more trade talk, because the trade deadline's coming up real quick here. And while there's not a whole lot, right? You mentioned Jonathan Bernier on the trade market. And if that's what we're talking about as potential trade bait this year, are we in for like the most boring, awful trade deadline imaginable? Because Taylor Hall's gone already. That's done. That was the big piece.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like the trade deadline's never that exciting. So to go the most boring in trade deadline history, that's a pretty high bar to hit.
Do you still, because for so long, I would just sit there all day with TSN on waiting for trades. Is that still a thing that you will, on trade deadline day, will you be following with Twitter open on one screen, TSN on the TV?
I think last year was the last year that I'm going to do that. Like last year, I worked from home. I was emailing from my couch, but I had the TV on all day and I had Twitter on my phone. But like the day's bad enough for the TSN guys already. Why do I need to make it bad for myself? Why do I need to watch someone else's bad day?
It's true. Very, very good point. So you mentioned Jonathan Bernier, right? We've got the goalies in New York. Georgiev. Yep. He's probably going to be on the move this trade deadline, right? He's a good get, I would say.
He'd be a great get if they decide to move him.
What teams, if you're one of these, what teams out there looking for a goalie?
Oh boy, what teams are looking for a goalie? Well, I guess you can take Toronto off that list. Let me pull up my list of teams here. And let's have a look. You got any?
So earlier this year, right? Like Columbus could have been on that list. Elvis is amazing, right? He has made me have to know how to say Merzlikins.
That's right.
And so he's taken over, refuses to give up goals. I mean, he did give up 3 goals to the Avalanche on the weekend, but you know what? That's going to happen. That's the best he can expect.
Yeah, he gave up none to the Red Wings, so I mean, you know, it evens out.
Right. I would see because so right now Carter Hart out for the Flyers.
He's back.
Is he back tonight?
Today, yeah.
Okay. So scratch that off the list because I was going to say Brian Elliott is not enough for that team moving forward.
Yeah.
That said, if either of them go down, they could be a team looking right. They're right on the cusp of the playoffs. Could be in need of someone. Pittsburgh doing well, but they're one injury away from having to fully rely on Matt Murray again.
Yeah, that's kind of who I was looking at when I pulled up my list of teams. I feel like if Pittsburgh's going to do a goalie deal, they're going to make it a big one. Like they're going to find someone who can be their regular goalie for a lot of time.
Definitely possible. And heading out west, there's no one really that is in like Arizona could, but they're also currently out of the playoffs, right? So we'll see. But as we talked about, not a lot of picks available there in old Arizona.
Yeah.
So, and plus, I'm sure they have at least 3 or 4 goalies that they've been scouting pretty heavily, and they've been getting them to do some interval training for them, and they've got an eye on them. So I don't think they're really looking for a future goalie here.
What about Edmonton? You think they're still in the market?
I don't think so. I think between Koskinen and Mike Smith, I think they're pretty content right now. Moving forward, yes, if they could get in the same way as Pittsburgh, right, swinging for a big gun.
Yeah.
If they get someone in there that they trust long term, and I'm not sure I can think of there's no one that I would think a team would really be looking at moving. So
no.
But there are other goalies. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see Devin Dubnyk be moved this deadline. Either goalie in Chicago could get moved. Corey Crawford's deal is coming up here, so he could be on the way out. So if someone wants a goalie, I'm fairly certain they're going to be cheap at the deadline.
Yeah. There's lots available. It's just I don't know. Trading for a rental player is still something I have a hard time wrapping my head around. Doing so for a goalie is an even worse decision, in my opinion. I wouldn't give up a lot of assets for a rental goalie.
Because goalies are so borderline random.
Yeah. They're so weird.
I think back to I don't even recall if I know it was a trade. Was it a trade deadline deal? The Dwayne Rollison to Edmonton move?
Oh, that was a long time ago, Carl.
That was a real long time ago, Nick. That was 12 years ago we're talking about here. But that was one where it worked out, and he got unnecessarily hot, but it could have been just as likely. If not, it was probably more likely that it would just be a trade, right?
That was a trade deadline trade.
There you go.
And it cost them a first-round pick.
Well, and worked out great for them. I mean, they didn't win the cup, but they got real close.
Yep, they sure did.
And then really that's all we're hoping for is to just get close. Just let me try, Nick. Right?
Especially for Canadian teams. Man, this country needs a Stanley Cup so bad.
Oh no, that's not true. I was going to say no, it is true. Since the last Stanley Cup, we have both won the Larry O'Brien and the World Series since the Canadians won in 93.
Yeah, that's true.
It's been a while. All we need is now a Super Bowl. We just need one of those, and we've got the big 3. Which we just need to move the Bills to Toronto and somehow have the Buffalo Bills win a Super Bowl. What about the rest of the players available? Like I said, Taylor Hall is gone. Are there any that stand out to you as someone you would be excited if you're a playoff team and pick them up?
Alex Pietrangelo, whose name still continues to pop up. Justin Schultz I don't think they're going to trade him, though. Pittsburgh's in a playoff spot.
I was going to say, these all sound like moves that a team second But I hear you, right? Like these are names that come up. But Pittsburgh doesn't seem super likely.
Now, a lot of these teams that have these high-end free agents are all playoff teams.
Right.
You know, like, I don't know. Zach Bogosian, is he going to be a rental?
Could be.
I suppose he could.
I mean, here's an interesting one that came across my wire today, and would be very surprised if this did happen. But from the Winnipeg Free Press, there are legs to the rumor that Kyle Connor could be on the move out of Winnipeg.
Really? Kyle Connor, eh?
Kyle Connor
That's a big move.
Having himself, I mean, he got paid, right? He's got a 7-year, $50 million deal that he's worked on.
It's a very new deal.
A brand new deal. Multiple 30 goals seasons. Second best Connor in the league, which is always a good thing to have. And apparently the Jets are open to moving him.
Really? Any rumored teams they might be moving him to?
There's a team in Colorado that have an abundance of young defensemen. There's like Sam Girard. They've got this future Calder Trophy winner, Cale Makar on the team. Eric Johnson, Ian Cole. And so someone they just picked in last year's draft, Bowen Byram, could be a pretty nice trade piece.
And really, a young defenseman is the only thing the Jets are looking for at this point.
I mean, he would step in. I haven't seen him in NHL action because he hasn't. No,
but he's a top prospect.
There's
he was fourth overall pick?
Yeah, there's no reason to think he's not the number 2 defenseman on that Jets team.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week with Byfuglien leaving and then them also losing their other top 2 defense. Like, that is easily their biggest need. They're good on goaltending. They're good on forward depth and elite talent. So is it worth it giving up one of your best scorers to bring in that missing piece on the blue line? One who may not be ready right now.
They would be playing him right now, though, whether he's ready or not.
Right. So he's not going to hit his prime for another few years.
Yeah, he would. Certainly letting him spend another year in the dub will help. And so they'll get him in there, start him. One thing that is nice for the Jets, a team that is still on the brink of contending, this could stop them from having to go full rebuild because they've had some big salary issues the last few years, right? That was a big issue coming up this year. That's why they had to move Jacob Trouba because they had, they gave Kyle Connor this big deal. They had Dustin Byfuglien's deal. So now Byfuglien gone, Kyle Connor gone, and bringing in a guy making on a rookie deal, you're saving about $13 million. So now that frees that up all of a sudden. Yeah. I don't hate this for the Jets.
It's not a terrible move. I guess, what does it do to your season? Right? Because they're in a wild card spot right now. And they've had a rocky season.
It is lucky that they're in a wild card spot right now.
Yeah. So like moving Connor out could be the end of their season when it comes to playoff talk.
Very true. Yeah. I would, because they're not, I mean, they could bring Bowen Byram in. I do believe that is a legal thing, is it not?
Like to play for the team?
To play for the team. It would.
Yeah, but he's not gonna be a huge contributor to making the playoffs. You think?
Or he is. I mean, we saw last year, we probably would have thought, I thought the exact same thing with Cale Makar when the Avalanche brought him in at the end of his run through the Frozen Four. I was like, he's a rookie defenseman. You're bringing him into a playoff series. This is not going to go super well. I'm not sure it's worth burning a year off his deal. And it was.
Yeah, but I think the Avs were in the playoffs last year the team was in a different position than the Winnipeg Jets team is right now. He walked onto a strong team that had a ton of momentum behind them. Like he had a good decor surrounding him. Bowen Byram
is
wouldn't
true.
have that.
He would not be able to get the cushy matchups that they were able to give Cale Makar last year.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't see Bowen Byram coming in and this team making a playoff run. I see it with Kyle Connor on this team, but I don't see it with Bowen Byram. So for them to make that trade, what I'm saying is that I think they'd be forfeiting their season.
I could definitely agree with you. Right now, the way that the Jets line's matching up, I would certainly shove him with, either Kulikov or Niku. On that second pair, leave Morrissey and Pionk there. Nonetheless, I would be, as an Avalanche fan, I would be sad to see Bowen Byram go. But in getting and I'm not sure you would get that straight up, but in getting a known quantity like Kyle Connor, thrilled.
What do you mean you'd be sad to see him go? You haven't even seen him come yet.
I mean, he was in camp.
He hasn't even showed up yet. I think that would be a good deal for the Avs.
Yeah. And honestly, I would be very surprised if that was a 1-for-1 deal.
Yeah,
the Avs would too. The Avs would need to include something else, and I mean they have some of those assets, so you could give the Arizona's third that they got for Carl Soderberg with them.
Yeah.
But anyways, there was speaking of contracts and all of those things, there was one handed out today, Nick.
I saw that. In Edmonton can't go a week without being in the news, eh?
No, they cannot. What? So this was one of the first deals that the Oilers have signed. Signing Darnell Nurse to a 2-year, $5.6 million per deal. And this takes him right to unrestricted free agency. He will be unrestricted at the end of this deal. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know much about Darnell Nurse. I know he's a good defenseman. I think it's probably pretty cheap if he's projected to be a top, 2 defenseman. Is he a top 2 defenseman on this team? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's cheap for your top 2 defensemen. But I think the other side of that coin is that, like you said, it walks him to UFA.
Which is how you get it cheap, right? If you're taking away those UFA deals or those UFA years, you're going to pay more.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think it works for both sides.
Very much so. As of right now, he is second on this team in time on ice, behind Oscar Klefbom, who is playing almost 3 minutes a game more than him. So Oscar Klefbom clocking in at 25 minutes a game. Darnell Nurse, a mere 22.46. So definitely playing a lot for this team, doing well in that regard, and playing well. He is a player that I think a lot of fans, especially in Edmonton, had high expectations for. And for a while, he was not living up to those. And I feel like he's one of those players, for me at least, that the pendulum started to swing to not good. And now I think I underestimate his ability and his skill.
Yeah, well, I think he's kind of settling into the defenseman that he's going to be for his career. Like he's not, I don't think he's on pace to hit his point totals from last year, but that's okay because I think defensively he's looked much better. And I think that's where the Oilers have needed help. Yeah.
And being able to have someone, I mean, they need someone who can get the puck to McDavid and Draisaitl, particularly McDavid. And he's been able to do that. So,
yeah.
As someone well-versed in Ken Holland contracts, is this a change in mentality for him, or is this what the Ken Holland you know and tolerate?
What I remember from Ken Holland is him giving out these massive loyalty deals, 8 years, like maxing out the years and giving like moderate amounts of money. Like the worst contract in the league exists on the Red Wings right now, and it's a Ken Holland deal. And that's the Justin Abdelkader $4.5 million AAV for 8-year deal. So in that regard, it's different because he went short. He didn't go for long term. But it's still weird that he'd just take it right to UFA for someone that you would think is going to be your top 2 defenseman. I don't know. Yeah. He's weird, man.
But you mean, I also agree it's better. It's better to sign this deal than to sign, like you said, the albatross giant deals.
Yeah.
Because this will not cripple your team. I mean, I would much rather have Darnell Nurse walk and have to keep bringing people up. They've got, a moderate amount of good, right? They've got Ethan Bear's come onto this team this year and played well. Yeah. Bouchard in the wings coming up as well. They have some defensive prospects that can fill this team. And so I wouldn't be too sad, even if he does leave at the end of now 2 extra years. He'll be 28 at the end of this deal. That's fine.
Yeah, I agree. It looks like Ken Holland's contract negotiations are trending in the right direction.
And good for him on that. So,
and good for the Oilers.
You know what? As much as they're a city that I don't enjoy, their team deserves some happiness. They've had a rough go.
They have had a rough go.
All right, Nick, it is time for the Elimination Station.
Elimination Station.
The Elimination Station is, as always, powered by Park Power. It is time for us to power up the Elimination Station, see if Nick can finally get his team of choice in there. But first, Park Power and parkpower.ca is our place for utilities in Alberta. If you head to parkpower.ca, you can switch super easily. Just fill out their easy to use information and they will get back to you and tell you what they can do for you. They will support local charities. They are a local service and they care about you. They actually, unlike some of these big companies, they care about taking care of you. They want to make sure that you are a customer of theirs, and they will do what it takes. So head to parkpower.ca. Thank you to them for powering the Elimination Station, where we pick a team to eliminate from the playoffs. And Nick, can you give us the old rundown? Who is left?
Who's left?
Who have we eliminated?
Okay, I'll do that, because who's left is a whole other way
Nick,
of thinking.
Can you list off the other 20 plus teams that we haven't eliminated yet? Who have we?
So far, we have eliminated the Detroit Red Wings, as we mentioned at the start of the show, the Ottawa Senators, the Los Angeles Kings, the Anaheim Ducks, the Minnesota Wild, the New Jersey Devils, the San Jose Sharks, and lastly, the Buffalo Sabres, who I still can't figure out why they can't be a good team. That's who we've eliminated so far.
And they've only been worse since we eliminated them. It's like they wanted to prove to us. They're like, yeah, we deserve to be here.
Carl made the right choice.
Yeah. They're like, look, Nick, sure, your choice, not that great, but hold my beer.
Okay,
so,
Carl.
Who do you want this week?
All right.
I see a piece of paper in your hand.
Let me paint this picture for you, okay?
All right, let's do this.
Okay, so this week I want to eliminate a team in the Eastern Conference who is currently, obviously, sitting outside of the playoff picture, but they do have a +4 goal differential. They take the most penalties in the league, and they have a bottom third penalty kill percentage. Not great on the special teams. They have questionable goaltending. They have the second worst 5-on-5 Corsi for percentage in the league. And they have one of the hardest schedules remaining. I'm speaking, of course, Carl, about the New York Rangers.
Ooh.
That's right. I had a change of heart.
A real epiphany, Nick. So, here's what's fun. Is your former team of choice also has a +4 goal differential.
I know.
You had me going there, and then I had to scroll down and saw, wait a second, I know what's happening here.
The old switcheroo.
The game is afoot.
It's funny. I really started digging into the numbers, and I realized that the Habs actually have pretty good puck possession. They've been winning without their best defenseman. And they take a lot of shots. They just don't have a lot of finish. They don't have a very good shooting percentage.
Now, is that because are they taking bad shots? Because that was the big issue with the Hurricanes up until the last few years, is that they would take a lot of shots from the outside. Do you have any sort of like high-low danger shots, or is that a thing that I'm asking numbers you did not look into?
No, they have one of the better expected goals for percentages in the league.
Okay.
I haven't looked at the hockey viz though of the heat map. So I think they get a lot of shots.
Nick,
I think they do quite well.
Nick. Minnesota Wild trades Jason Zucker to Pittsburgh for Alex Galchenyuk, a 2020 first-round pick, and Callan Addison.
Ooh. Breaking news on the Fourth Line podcast.
Breaking news. This happened 2 minutes ago, coming from the verified Bob McKenzie account. So there it is, Jason Zucker and the aforementioned. You talked about both of those players, did you not? I know you mentioned Galchenyuk. So what do you think? Is that a good price for Zucker?
Oh, man. Probably. I don't know. Zucker's a weird player, man. I mean, I think we knew he was going to be traded this year.
Considering they almost traded him last year and failed.
Yeah. But Galchenyuk, I don't know. He's top 6, I would say. He hasn't done much in Pittsburgh since he got there.
No. I'm fine with this. So Jason Zucker, he's got so Galchenyuk, contract up after this year, UFA. The first round pick from Pittsburgh, they're notorious for trading this pick. It's going to be late, as usual. Jason Zucker, on the other hand, has 3 more years after this. So they're essentially bringing someone in with term, which I like for them as a team, and obviously an upgrade. So I'm for upgrade.
Good for them, man. Pittsburgh, as they do, they're getting ready. They're going to make a playoff push.
They are. And, I mean, if you look at this because Galchenyuk was traded for Phil Kessel. So even if you look at that, the difference between Zucker and Kessel, Zucker makes $1.3 million less. I'm not sure that's worth the first-round pick. And whoever Callan Addison is, I assume he's not an actual prospect. I've
heard that name before, but I don't know Callan Addison. I don't know where.
I don't either. Do you?
I'm picking it up.
He plays for the Brandon Wheat or Lethbridge Hurricanes in the WHL. Defenseman.
He was on the Canada U20 team.
Okay. Does it say there where he was drafted?
He was drafted in 2018, second round, 53rd overall.
Okay. So certainly could be a quality prospect in the end.
Top 60 draft pick. And Alex Galchenyuk, who, like you said, his contract's up at the end of the year. So he may just be there for the rest of the season, and that's it. And
you know what? I would not be surprised at all if he's not moved again before the deadline now.
Yeah, he might still be.
Right? Because now a playoff team that wants him then can flip him and get a second, a third, something, right? For Galchenyuk. There we go, Nick. We talked trades.
In fact, Minnesota should do that.
Absolutely, they should. Yeah. Let's get back to the elimination station, though. Now that this trade's happened, the New York Rangers. Let's do it. Let's put them in the elimination station.
I've convinced you?
Yeah, I'm sold. Because here's why. And here's something I found very interesting by you. You call them poor goaltending, but everyone is wanting a piece of their goaltending.
No, I don't think they have poor goaltending. I thought I said questionable goaltending, and I don't mean questionable in terms of performance. I mean just in terms of they don't know what the hell they're doing. in that department.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, you've got two young goalies who are doing pretty okay for themselves, but they're still really young. So you don't quite know how these guys are gonna turn out. And then you got Lundqvist, who this week I saw I think Larry Brooks reported in New York that they might actually buy out the last year of his deal. Like, I don't know. That kind of
Why? Why would you do that? Of all the things you could do.
If you want to keep both of your young goalies.
I guess so.
The penalties aren't huge. There's only 1 year left on his deal.
I guess, right? So they would buy out next year $8.5 million.
And then I think you get hit for like $5 and $6 million, something like that.
Okay. The only reason I could see them wanting to do that is to figure out which of these goalies they're going to trade, because one of them has to be gone. If they're both going to be good, one of them needs to be traded before they lose them for nothing to Seattle.
That's a great point. So you think one of them is going to be traded regardless?
Before the expansion draft, one of them has to be.
Yeah.
Or else you're doing a thing where like the Penguins did with Murray and Fleury. I mean, these are two young guys, but they should do what Anaheim did with Freddie Andersen and John Gibson. Pick one, trade the other one, and get something good back.
Yeah. Lots of questions around the goaltending there.
Yeah.
Lots of relying on unproven goaltenders. So
in the future, yeah, because we've got the end of Lundqvist. I mean, he's not getting any better. He's
not
old.
Yeah.
But what else do you do with this team? They've improved this year, as they should have.
Honestly, wait. They're going to be good as they are. Just not this year. I think they're kind of falling out of it a little bit. They don't have a ton of depth beyond Panarin contributing offense. I think their biggest weakness is on the blue line, and that's mostly because Jacob Trouba's had a very, very poor season. So, he bounces back next year. Brady Shea.
That's when I've learned. You don't pronounce half the letters in it, and you're fine. And add an H.
He's okay, but I mean, this team still has Brendan Smith on their lineup every night. Like that's not good. So no. I think, and then they have a lot of, Adam Fox has looked okay. Anthony DeAngelo's looked pretty good. They've got some youth on the blue line. It's just they don't have it. They don't have it this year.
No, they don't have it this year. And what do you think? Chris Kreider, UFA after this year, a name in trade talks a lot. Is he going to be traded this deadline? If we're eliminating them, in theory, he should be.
Yeah, I think he'll probably be traded. That's what all the chat. He's the one who's all the chatters around now, anyways, right?
Everyone's all a tweeter about Chris Kreider being moved.
Yeah.
And I mean, for a price, I wouldn't be super excited about him going to the Avalanche. I think the price on him is going to be far too high, and he's not a fit there. But I think there are teams. I mean, for what he brings, I think a lot of his skill set is oftentimes like the physical side of his game, and that side is something that I think people overplay and underplay his actual goal scoring and production driving ability.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But I think they should ask a high price for him. Like, he's their piece this year. He's their chance at bringing in a yield at the deadline. So I don't know who's gonna bite.
We just saw that the price for Jason Zucker was a first and a reasonable prospect. So
yeah,
that's now and another trade piece, right? So like for whatever Galchenyuk ends up being worth, you got to think that that's exactly what they're looking for Kreider.
Yeah, the market's been set.
We know. Well done, Pittsburgh. You did it. And
trade
Minnesota.
Deadline season.
I mean, that those guys at the show, they're going to be. Do you remember that one year that they chased a llama around the parking lot?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're in for more animal-based hijinks.
There was another year where they had Jay Onright just in his kitchen making peanut butter toast.
You know what they should do? A throwback to a conversation we had in the summer. Octopus wrestling.
Absolutely, they should do octopus. I mean, why not at this point?
What do you have? You have literally nothing to lose.
You know, the Leafs got their goalie. Jason Zucker's been traded. Your trade board is slowly disappearing.
Yeah, Taylor Halls was traded long ago.
Yeah. They must just crumble a little bit inside every time a trade happens.
Before the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least they've got July 1st. That's the day you show up for. July 1st is the day that you take off and work from home. Trade deadline day? Nah, don't do it.
Yeah, totally agree.
Anything else you want to add on the Rangers?
No, I think they're in a good position. They're in a good spot. It's just not good enough this year. They turned it around real fast.
They did. I mean, they got lucky because Kakko, nothing to get excited about this year, I would say.
No, not yet.
But fine enough. And he's young. He'll get better. What's interesting, Nick, is so I'm just going to take a look here because there are math's hard. There's 16 teams in the East, 15 teams in the West. We have to eliminate 8 Eastern teams. So far, we have eliminated 5 teams in the East. We have only 3 more in the East we can eliminate. And we've eliminated 1, 2, 3, 4 in the West. So we've got 3 more per conference to eliminate. It's coming down to the wire, and there are some teams. Some tough choices are coming up soon.
It's getting exciting, man. It's getting exciting.
Maybe next week I'll be making the case for eliminating the Montreal Canadiens.
The playoff picture, I can't wait to hear that. Oh, I can't wait to hear that.
After all this.
I was just looking at the numbers and I couldn't justify eliminating the Canadiens this week. So they live to see another day. The playoff picture is going to be really interesting this year in both conferences.
Yeah, we've got, with those projections earlier that I mentioned, I believe they had projected the winner of the Pacific Division at 93 points.
Oof.
So the Pacific Division is really going to be coming down to the wire.
Yeah.
Should we pick some Pavel Bure must-watch games?
Let's do it.
All right. Last week, I struggled with the days of the week. This week, let's try to be better. And by let's, I mean me. You were nailing it. You kept me in line. I'm going to try. Today is Monday, Tuesday, February 11th. A big Tuesday schedule as per usual. What are you looking at?
I am looking at Tampa, Pittsburgh.
Oh, absolutely. Right now on the television, I have Tampa, Columbus on, and that has been a good game.
Oh, I've got Arizona, Montreal.
Less good of a game? Is it?
I don't know. It's been okay. I thought it was an interesting matchup.
Certainly.
Because of how the playoffs are falling. But
yeah. 2 teams on the outs that could get back in.
Yeah.
That's a game I'm looking at as well. And if you want, this might be, I didn't look at the rest of their schedule, but the Rangers are playing the Jets. Jacob Trouba returning to Winnipeg, which is what's likely hit the first time since his trade in the offseason. That would be your best bet. They also play the Blue Jackets Friday and the Bruins Sunday. If you want to watch Rangers, tune in tomorrow.
Yeah.
3 games on Wednesday. We've got a rivalry game happening. We count that as a rivalry, right?
What, Calgary, LA?
Oh, you know what? Technically, we've got a lot, right? We've got that. We also have Montreal-Boston, which is the one I was actually mentioning. But we should certainly be watching Matthew Tkachuk versus Drew Doughty Wednesday night.
I mean, you could probably make a case for Chicago-Vancouver being a rivalry game, too, from the 2011 playoffs.
Yeah, I was trying to remember when that was.
But a long time ago. None of those players play for these teams anymore.
And that's why I didn't. Yeah, that's why I didn't include that one, because like everyone in Vancouver is brand new. You got like one guy. Alex Edler's the only guy still kicking from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, tune in Wednesday to Shocking Rivalry Night. Valentine's Day, Nick. Are you a Valentine?
No, Thursday's February 13th.
I skipped Thursday. That's Carl, what I did.
Come on.
I'm looking at, I know I'm biased. Colorado-Washington's going to be one heck of a good game.
I agree, actually. That will be a really good game. So will St. Louis, Vegas.
Yeah, St. Louis, Vegas is a good one as well. And, you get Connor McDavid versus the Lightning, too. That's always going to be good.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. Now we're there. I told you, Nick, you have to keep me in line when it comes to all these dates.
There we go.
Are you a Valentine's Day celebrator?
Not really. I always say no, but I always come home with a little something.
I never do, and we are on the same page with that. So it's a little bit biased because it's also my birthday this weekend. And so we just celebrate me instead of us.
Oh, happy birthday, Carl.
Thanks. So what are you watching on Valentine's Day? What little thing are you going to bring home and then turn on the old hockey game?
I am probably going to watch Montreal-Pittsburgh.
I would agree. Yeah.
It's the best game on that schedule.
It is. Saturday night is an outdoor game, Nick. I know that our love of outdoor games has been waning in the last few years, but we've got Colorado and the Los Angeles Kings of all matchups playing an outdoor game at I believe it's in Colorado Springs at the old Air Force Stadium there. So if you want to watch an outdoor game, tune into that. If you want to watch something else, what would you be watching?
What else we got on the schedule that'll be good? Man, I don't know. There's the Battle of Ontario happening, but that is not good right now. Philadelphia, Tampa might be interesting. Nashville, St. Louis.
Yeah, Nashville, St. Louis, especially as an afternoon game. Definitely tune into that.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Sunday. A shockingly heavy Sunday schedule. Now that the NFL is done and they're not trying to compete against football, all they've got is the NBA All-Star Game. Some big games, big number of games. Edmonton, Carolina. I mean, everyone's pumped for that Stanley Cup rematch.
You'd have to remember that Carolina won a Stanley Cup first.
I never forget, Nick. I mean, I think that's something that we should all remember. It could give us hope. Like, if Carolina can win a Stanley Cup, so can you.
Yeah. That'll be good summer content. The year the Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup.
Just deep dives into weird seasons.
Yeah. That's where my went to as well. I don't think I'd watch any of these other games.
I mean, it's a home and home. If you're watching Nashville, St. Louis on Saturday, you can watch St. Louis, Nashville on Sunday.
Yeah. Or if you miss one day, you can watch the other.
Exactly. There's a couple good games on Monday night as well next week. Washington, Vegas, and Tampa, Colorado are some good games worth watching next Monday. If you're looking for more of us, you can find out where you can find the show at thefourthlinepodcast.com. You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. So if you are just happen to stumble upon us, subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Spreaker, Stitcher, and other S words where you can listen to podcasts. SoundCloud, we're not. Does anyone listen to podcasts on SoundCloud? Is the real question here.
Nobody does, but everyone posts a link for some reason.
Everyone does, and no one uses them. We did originally for one very simple reason. Adam Weil told us to. You know what? If it's good enough for the Dangle Show, it was good enough for us. And now it's not, so we're not on there anymore. Nonetheless, find us at all the places and head on over to fourthlinepodcast.com if you want more, right? If you want the easy links to all those places, head on over there. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Maybe some more trades will happen, Nick. Maybe some of them will happen during the show.
I hope so.
That would be fantastic. And until next week,
it's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. It's trade season in the NHL, but trade deadline day for TSN is hell.